Welcome back to the deep dive. We are starting today, not with a promise, but with a piece of digital irony.
Oh.
You use your Neobank, the bank that fits perfectly in your pocket, because it offers instant global transfers, high-yield savings. But what happens when that speed, the core selling point, becomes the perfect mask for, well, illicit cash flow?
And that is the tension we are deep diving into. I mean, for all the sleek interfaces and the easy onboarding, the digital finance sector is really struggling under the weight of financial crime.
And the cost is huge, right?
Oh, it's staggering. If you look at the historical precedent, past misconduct by major global banks has cost them over $350 billion in the last decade.
$350 billion.
Billion. That's a staggering 15% of their total equity. Just, wiped out.
So this isn't just about a few bugs in an app. This is about systemic risk being introduced by the very thing designed to make our finances faster.
It's the high-speed chase, innovation versus regulation. Precisely. So our mission today is to unpack that collision. We've got sources showing how fintech's aggressive growth strategy is running head-on into regulatory reality. And that's leading to massive fines, serious user anxiety, and, a relentless global fight against organized crime.
So for you, the listener, the fundamental question we're exploring is critical. When is too fast too risky? And what is all that convenience actually costing consumer trust?
Okay, so let's start with why we love these platforms in the first place. I mean, the core value proposition is just irresistible.
Totally.
You look at Revolut, for instance. It's offering compelling features, generous travel coverage, and the ultimate plan. It even includes unlimited airport lounge access. It's banking for the global citizen.
And beyond the perks, they deliver genuine financial control. Take bunq, the neobank based in the Netherlands. They let users create up to 25 separate sub-accounts.
25?
Yeah, each with its own unique IBAN, that's the international bank account number. It allows for this hyper-segregated money management that, legacy banks simply can't implement that quickly. That is the promise. But now we hit the friction point, that moment of real anxiety, when that instant transfer just stops.
It just vanishes into the ether.
Exactly. The Trade Republic case study is a chilling example here. We've seen reports of users having these huge transfers. We're talking blocks of 10,000 or even 30,000 euros, just being delayed or outright rejected.
And here's the digital irony we mentioned. Industry insiders suspect these large amounts are triggering automated internal checks for additional Know Your Customer or KYC verification.
Right, the security checks.
But because these teams are so often understaffed, they just get overwhelmed and the whole system freezes. And the common fix users report is completely counterintuitive.
What is it?
They're forced to send money in multiple smaller transfers just to sneak past their own bank's automated gatekeepers.
Wait, how often does a modern company tell you to physically break their system, send 10 small transfers instead of one big one just to make it work?
The user experience is terrible, and the outcome just compounds the anxiety. Reports show waiting periods stretching 1 month, 2 months, with users having to, and this is a quote, bombard them with complaints just to get their own money back.
Wow.
So that's more than just a bad customer service experience. That liquidity anxiety is a structural signal. It's telling us that many fintech providers prioritize that fast, easy onboarding at the expense of robust anti-money laundering controls.
So they scale the front end, the pretty app.
Exactly, but they forgot to scale the compliance engine behind the scenes. And regulators are no longer treating this as some kind of oversight. The European Banking Authority, the EBA, which is the EU-level oversight body, has observed this exact thing.
Okay, so what are they seeing?
They report that 70% of competent authorities see high or rising money laundering and terrorist financing risks, explicitly because firms are choosing to prioritize growth over compliance.
He actually said that. Prioritize growth over compliance.
Word for word. And the regulatory reckoning is now raining down. We're seeing massive fines that confirm this choice has very real consequences. Starling Bank in the UK was hit with a £28.9 million fine by the FCA.
That's the Financial Conduct Authority.
Right. And it was for significant AML control failures. And the reason, well, it's structural. Their customer base just exploded. It went from 43,000 to 3.6 million in a very short time.
So it's not just the speed, it's something else.
It's the technical debt. Their foundational AML system just wasn't modular or scalable enough to handle that 80 times growth. It created massive blind spots for criminal activity.
Hold on, isn't that just unfair regulatory heavy-handedness.
Yeah.
I mean, they were doing exactly what governments wanted them to do, driving innovation, driving growth.
Yeah.
It feels like they were punished for succeeding too fast.
That's the common counter-argument, but the regulators point to leadership failure. The fines aren't for being fast. They're for failing to invest adequately. Monzo, for example, got a £21 million fine for AML lapses. And Germany's regulator BaFin fined N26 €9.2 million in May 2024 because they, and I quote, systematically reported suspicious activities late.
That late reporting is crucial, isn't it? If you report a suspicious transfer 3 months too late.
That money is long gone, exactly. And N26 acknowledged it. They allocated €80 million afterwards just to strengthen compliance. And this problem is global, too. Block, Inc., which runs Cash App, was fined $40 million in the U.S. for significant failures in its AML program.
What kind of failures?
A lax treatment of high-risk transactions like Bitcoin, which were just allowed to go through with insufficient scrutiny.
The root cause analysis from compliance experts seems to connect all these dots back to the executive suite. What were the consistent shortcomings they found?
There were 4 main points. First, clear underinvestment in both compliance people and the technology. Second, poor systems that fail to identify risk, sometimes accepting clients that were previously flagged in what are called suspicious activity reports, or SARs.
So they were basically ignoring a previous red flag from law enforcement.
Essentially, yes. Third, a leadership culture that just didn't prioritize financial crime prevention. And finally, a pervasive lack of management information. They were collecting data, sure, but they weren't effectively analyzing or using it to manage risk.
These individual fines, they tell the story of failed compliance inside single companies. But to really get the stakes, we need to zoom out. We need to look at the systemic problem the regulators are actually trying to solve.
Sheer scale of dirty money.
Right, flowing through the single market.
The scale is staggering. Estimates suggest the flow of illicit funds through the EU financial system annually. It ranges up to $750 billion.
$750 billion. What is that as a percentage?
It's equivalent to 2.3% of Europe's entire GDP.
That's unbelievable. And the neobanks operating cross-border are caught right in the middle of a fragmented regulatory structure that makes fighting that so much harder.
Absolutely. The problem is fundamentally exacerbated by this fragmentation. Supervisory authorities in different countries sometimes take diverging approaches just to attract innovative companies.
Which creates what's called regulatory arbitrage.
Exactly. Criminals can literally shop around for the easiest country to set up shop.
Can you give us a concrete example of that? Because you could argue that some divergence is necessary for local innovation. Is consistency always the answer?
Well, consistency is essential when you're combating global crime. Take remote identification. It's a critical step in KYC. ID Now's video conferencing solution, which N26 used, was approved by BaFin in Germany, a secure tool.
Okay.
Yet that exact same solution was not accepted by authorities in other EU countries.
Yeah.
This directly creates an unlevel playing field. It slows down legitimate companies while criminals just benefit from the confusion.
And that fragmentation hits the user directly, too.
Mhm.
This is where the trust we talked about it dissolves. We've seen reports of so-called IBAN discrimination, where neobanks, like Revolut in the Netherlands, get flagged as being associated with fraud.
And this isn't just an inconvenience. This makes the user feel like a second-class banking citizen. They struggle to get their salary or interact with the government because their non-native IBAN is getting flagged by national systems. It just destroys the trust the neobank worked so hard to build.
And on top of that, the criminals are getting smarter. This isn't just about human analysts reviewing forms anymore. This is an AI arms race.
It is.
Yeah.
The European Banking Authority explicitly warns that criminals are using AI to automate money laundering, forge documents with deepfakes, and just evade all the due diligence measures. We're not talking about bots spamming phishing links. We're talking about custom AI models producing perfect deepfakes of utility bills and passports to pass KYC checks over and over.
Faster than any human can track.
Exactly. Financial institutions are struggling to keep pace.
So what's the regulatory fix for all this cross-border chaos?
Yeah.
The EU has introduced MLA, the Authority for Anti-Money Laundering. It formally came into being in July, which is a major step. It aims for same services, same risks, same rules.
That sounds great in theory, but when does this centralized authority actually get teeth?
And that's the catch. You should note that it will not begin direct supervision until January 1st, 2028.
2028, that's the 4-year gap.
A critical one. It means for the next 48 months, criminals know they can still exploit the seams, the fragmentation between countries, before MLA has any real centralized power to step in. That long interim period allows vast amounts of dirty cash to keep flowing.
So the key change has to be reframing compliance. It can't be seen as this painful, mandatory cost center. It has to be core infrastructure, a critical investment in trust.
Right.
We can use the Robinhood case as a baseline to understand the math. Their crypto division was fined $30 million for compliance failures.
And that $30 million becomes the cost of doing nothing. When compliance officers analyze that, they compare it to the cost of actually creating a robust automated program. And experts estimate building that system, the tech, the people, would cost around $4 to $5 million.
Wait, that seems way too cheap. Doesn't that figure ignore the cost of integration, staff training, and maybe the competitive slowdown that comes with pausing hypergrowth for a bit?
Well, it accounts for the core systems, yes, but you've hit the nail on the head regarding the initial mindset. The calculation proves that the fine is exponentially larger than the investment.
So the money is there.
The money's there. The fine is incurred because leaders choose the competitive advantage of hyperspeed over the slower, more deliberate process of building secure infrastructure. Look at Starling, Monzo, and 26. They all invested heavily after the fines hit.
So the solution to the AI criminal problem is an AI compliance solution. It's the only way to win this AI versus AI arms race.
It has to be. This is where RegTech innovation comes in. AI and machine learning can continuously monitor transactions, identify anomalies in real time, far faster and more reliably than any manual review.
Right.
This automation is crucial. It reduces the burden on compliance teams, freeing up human analysts to focus on high-value, complex investigations like tracking those deepfakes, rather than just routine screening.
And for the neobanks, compliance then becomes a brand advantage. Transparency builds trust. You can publish reports detailing the suspicious activity reports you filed, the fraud you've prevented.
Absolutely. The goal is to make compliance part of the core infrastructure. That means ensuring identity data, sanction status, transaction behavior. It all converges into a single, dynamic customer risk profile. This gives you continuous monitoring, which not only catches criminals, but also vastly improves your audit readiness for when the regulators come knocking. The neobank story is, I think, ultimately a lesson in the high stakes of hypergrowth. Their future success depends entirely on whether they're willing to invest in regulatory depth as much as they invest in technological speed.
So the goal is harmonization.
The regulatory goal across Europe is now crystallized. Achieve the principle of same services, same risks, same rules, and same supervision across what is right now a very fragmented continent.
And that ongoing challenge leads to our final provocative thought for you to consider. Evidence suggests that around 70% of criminal networks use the single market's financial system to launder money.
70%. And a shocking 80% use legal business structures like shell companies to move that cash.
So the fintech sector is under this intense public scrutiny. It's bearing the brunt of the enforcement.
So if digital banks are the focus, what knowledge gap remains? I mean, consider that vast, less supervised sectors like real estate, which is a classic vehicle for cleaning money, often remain outside the direct purview of the new centralized AML authority, AMLA.
How long can these vast pools of dirty money hide in less supervised sectors, while digital banks bear the brunt of the enforcement and these massive fines? Something to think about the next time your instant transfer takes 2 days. The friction you feel might actually be the system attempting, belatedly, to stop a $750 billion problem.